Orange, New Jersey, 1917. A factory floor, long tables, young women sitting shoulder to shoulder, laughing, talking, working. The best paid factory job a working class woman could get. 3 times the average wage. They mixed their own paint, radium powder, water, glue, into a luminous greenish-white paste that glowed in the dark. Then they picked up their brushes, and they put them in their mouths. Their supervisors had a technique. They called it lip, dip, paint. Brush to lips, shape the point, dip in radium, paint the dial. Over and over, 250 dials a day. The company told them the paint was harmless. The company knew that was a lie. To understand what happened to these women, you have to understand what radium meant in 1917. It was a miracle. Marie Curie had discovered it just 19 years earlier. And in those 19 years, the world had decided that radium wasn't just a scientific curiosity, it was a cure. Radium toothpaste, radium face cream, radium chocolate, radium water, bottled and sold as a health tonic. Wealthy men paid fortunes to drink it every morning. One of them, a socialite named Eben Byers, drank a bottle of radium water every day for 2 years. By the end, his skull had partially dissolved. The Wall Street Journal ran his obituary under the headline, "The radium water worked fine until his jaw fell off." But the public didn't know this yet. In 1917, radium was still magic, still the future, still the thing that made watch dials glow in the dark, which made them readable for soldiers in the trenches of World War I. And so the United States Radium Corporation opened its factory in Orange, New Jersey, and hired 300 young women to paint them. The women who got these jobs felt lucky. Grace Fryer was 18 years old when she started. She wanted to help the war effort. Her brothers were soldiers. She picked up her brush. At the end of her first shift, she went home, and her hair glowed in the dark. She thought it was wonderful. So did all of them. They called themselves the Ghost Girls. They painted their nails with the radium paste on their lunch breaks, painted their teeth to surprise their boyfriends when the lights went out. They laughed about it. One woman blew her nose after a shift, and her handkerchief glowed green in the dark. She thought nothing of it. Across the factory floor, in a separate room, the company's scientists handled radium with lead screens, with tongs, with masks. They did not eat lunch in the factory. They did not put brushes in their mouths. They knew exactly what they were asking the women to do. Radium behaves like calcium in the human body. The body cannot tell the difference, so it does what it does with calcium. It carries it directly to the bones. And there it stays, forever, irradiating from the inside, eating. In 1922, 5 years after the factory opened, dentists in Orange, New Jersey began to notice something. A flood of new patients, young women, factory workers, coming in with the same complaint. Their teeth were falling out. The dentists took x-rays and found that beneath the teeth, the jawbones were riddled with holes, dotted with them, like the bone had been dissolved from within. In the most severe cases, The jaw became so brittle that it simply separated from the skull. Doctors would later call it radium jaw. The first woman to die from it was 24 years old. Her name was Molly Magia. She had started at the factory at age 19, 5 years of lip dip paint, 250 dials a day. In September 1922, the infection that had been destroying Molly from the inside reached her throat. It ate through her jugular vein. She hemorrhaged so fast her nurse could not stop it. She was 24 years old. Her death certificate listed the cause of death as syphilis. The company had suggested it. The doctor complied, and Molly Magia's name was buried alongside her body, her reputation destroyed, so that the United States Radium Corporation could keep its factory running. By 1924, 50 women at the orange factory had reported serious illness. 12 were dead. The company knew. They had always known. As far back as 1906, 11 years before the factory even opened, there were published studies in the company's own files describing the injurious effects of radium. When the deaths became impossible to ignore, the company hired researchers from Harvard to investigate conditions at the factory. The researchers found exactly what you'd expect. Almost every single woman they tested had ingested harmful and potentially fatal amounts of radioactive material. They sent their findings to the company president. He commissioned new studies to contradict them. Then he submitted a falsified version of the original report to state officials. Then he lied about it directly to the Department of Labor. When women who were dying tried to sue, the company's lawyers used every tool available. They argued the statute of limitations had expired. They called the women's illnesses unrelated to radium. They hired doctors to provide alternative diagnoses. One company doctor examined Grace Fryer, who was by then struggling to walk, her bones disintegrating, and declared her in fine health. He did not have a medical license. He was on the company payroll. When 5 of the women finally got their day in court in January 1928, 2 of them were bedridden. None of them could raise their arms to take the oath. Their lawyer told the press, "When you have been told you are going to die, that there is no hope, and every newspaper you pick up prints what amounts to your obituary, there is nothing else." The company tried to delay the trial until September. They were hoping the women would be dead by then. The women settled out of court. Each received $10,000, a small annual payment for as long as they lived, coverage for their medical bills. They all died within a few years of the settlement. But before they did, they changed everything. Let every disturbing fact land before moving to the next one. The Radium Girls case was the first time in American history that a company was held responsible for the deliberate health damage of its employees. It directly shaped the creation of workplace safety laws. It laid the groundwork for what would eventually become OSHA. It changed what an employer was allowed to do to the people who worked for them. Grace Fryer, Molly Magia, Catherine Schaub. These women, dying, barely able to stand, went to court anyway. There is a detail from this story that I cannot stop thinking about. One of the women, May Keene, survived, lived to 107 years old. When asked how, she said simply, "I didn't like putting the brush in my mouth. After a few days, my boss asked if I wanted to quit. I said yes." One decision, made without knowing why it mattered. That was the difference between living to 107 and dying at 24. The bodies of the Radium Girls are still radioactive today. Radium has a half-life of 1,600 years. They are in the ground, in cemeteries in New Jersey and Illinois, and they are still glowing. They were told it was harmless. They were told it was safe. They were told to put the brush in their mouths. And the people who told them that went home every night to houses far away from the factory and never glowed at all.
The next story begins in the dark. Subscribe to uncover it.